What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Horror Heads podcast. I am Rich Mallory here with my co-host Jerry Lorenko.
It's fucking October, yo!
Yeah, it is October. Today is October 1st. I don't know what day in October it's going to be when you're listening to us, but yeah, today's October 1st, so happy fucking Halloween coming up soon.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram at Horrorheads Podcast, or you can email us your love and hate at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. So today we're going to talk about some 90s horror films. We're going to talk about the original Blair Witch Project, the original Scream, and we're going to talk about urban legend. And we also have a special guest. We have writer filmmaker Geno McGahee coming on in a few minutes, so we'll introduce him shortly. And I heard he's bringing some Jameson, so hopefully he does, because that's what I brought today. But before we kind of get into that, just a few things we wanted to kind of talk about. First of all, like, I'm going to start it off and say my newest film, Made Droid Origins, is going to have its world premiere this Thursday, October 3rd. Unfortunately, you'll be listening to this after it happens, so I'll fill you in on how amazing it went. And then I'm pretty sure we're going to be releasing on Tubi any day now, actually. So it's super exciting. So I can't wait for you all to see that. Yeah, so that's like the news I got.
That's amazing.
And yeah, thanks, man. I'm super stoked. Yeah, hopefully we get hundreds of people at the premiere and it goes really well. So, like, I know, Jerry, I know you have a few important, exciting things to talk about since it is October 1st. So I'm going to hand it over to you to kind of talk while I sip on this tea.
Hell yeah. I got a couple of small projects in the works. If anyone's been following social media, we just launched the Horror Heads Horror Film Challenge for October. And although we are not the first people on Earth to invent this, we have been doing it for about, I would say, 10, 12, maybe 13 years. I have no idea how long we've been doing this, but you know what? It's been evolving, and we always have a lot of fun doing it. So the last probably 2, 3 years, we've been sharing it online, mostly on Facebook, now Instagram, and now we'll be sharing some updates here, right here on this podcast. And I think it's a lot of, it's a lot of fun. So it kind of pushes you out of your comfort zone instead of like rewatching the same kind of 5 movies you love. It makes you take a chance and maybe try something new or something you didn't expect. If anyone wants to see that list, it's posted on our Instagram page, and I think there's some pretty cool genres that we put out there this year, Rich. And I was curious if you had a favorite one that you're looking forward to.
Well, my favorite one every year is Horror Film You Hate, which I really love because it gives me a chance to revisit a film that I thought I hated, and sometimes I end up actually liking it through new eyes. So for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, the Horror Heads Challenge, basically it's every day in October, there's a different genre, and the challenge is you need to watch a horror film that fits that genre. And they're pretty loose and broad, right? I mean, really the idea is to get people to watch more movies, and usually what I try to do is I try to watch as many movies I haven't seen before or haven't seen in a long time, because during the normal year, I'm kind of like, I want to watch this, but like I go back to my familiar old things. And like this actually pushes me to watch stuff I never saw. Unfortunately, I end up watching a lot of stuff that is fucking awful, but I do discover some gems every year. Like last year, I watched, I think it was like the 1981 movie, The Boogeyman, which it's not a good movie, but it was entertaining and it was something I hadn't seen before. It's kind of like an Amityville Horror meets Exorcist,
That's
but
awesome.
like, yeah, I always see something I like. I'm like, I always find something and I'm like, oh, and that ends up in the rotation. So super stoked. So how many movies? It's actually, there's a couple of days where they're double ups where like,
Yeah,
it's like you might have to watch like a double feature or something like that. So how many movies
maybe
in total?
two. So there's going to be 34 films in 31 days. And I'm glad you mentioned one of my favorite genres, which is movies you hate, because honestly, movies are a mood. And sometimes maybe it's just you. Maybe you're the problem and the movie is awesome. So you revisit it and then suddenly it becomes one of your favorite movies. I know that happened to me a few times, and that is actually one of my favorite days. One of my second favorite days is the decades binge, and you
Ugh,
just kind
one of
of
my least favorite days.
you kind of alluded to it. So this is a tough day. I usually try to do it towards the end of the week or on a weekend or something like that. And this year it's 70s, 80s, and 90s. Decades binge. So basically, you're going to watch a movie from the 70s, 80s, and 90s, and really just kind of take a tour of how, like, horror evolved. And I think that's kind of cool, and it gives you kind of like a good perspective if like you're locked into like the 80s, or if you're locked into the 90s, or you just watch new movies. I think it's a good excuse to kind of watch something else. So that's definitely one that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and don't be intimidated by it. Like, it's a lot of movies to watch, and it's tough to watch a movie every day. Like, I know I don't have the time to watch a movie every day. The idea is just to watch, this number of movies so you can get ahead of the game, right? Like, you could watch, usually what I'll do is on like a Saturday or a Sunday, I might watch 4 movies just to knock those off and get ahead. So don't feel that you need to watch one every day. But yeah, again, would love to hear what you all are watching. So like hit us up on Instagram. Let us know like what you're picking. We're gonna put our picks up there too.
Yeah, and outside of that, we not only launched that this week, but we also launched our Horror Heads podcast playlist on Spotify. And if you guys follow us on Instagram, we usually try to really curate our sound and have like a pretty aggressive sound or a really unique indie alternative sound that kind of, matches us. It matches what we like. It matches the sound of this podcast. And if you're into like metalcore kind of music, indie goth music, retro wave, check out the playlist. I think you'll enjoy it, and you'll kind of see like, what inspires us when we're creating these posts, because we do spend a lot of time working on the post, and we do spend a lot of time working on the music for it. So check that out if you're looking for something new to listen to this October.
Yeah, some sick tracks in there for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. I'm like, banging my head the whole way to work. So it's a lot of fun. So I know we probably want to get started and bring in Gino, but real quick, man, I just want to shout out and we're hitting October, which is a big month for us, and we're also on our 19th episode, which is,
Actually,
I
they
mean,
say it's
it's
18th. 18th.
18th. Today's 18th. Is it the 18th?
You know what? I don't know. I have no idea. It's 18th or 19th.
It's pretty high up there.
Yeah.
And we just want to say, thank you to everyone. Really appreciate, everyone who listens, to the show. They comment, they like, they share our posts on social media. That really helps get the word out about us. But also want to take a second to kind of share, shout out some fellow podcasters, because I mean, they really help you like in these fledgling times. So I definitely want to shout out Mike from Whiskey Morgue and Horror on the Rocks podcast. I mean, he's a super cool guy who does something like pretty similar to us. He likes to drink whiskey while he's watching horror
Nice.
films, and hopefully we get him on the show one day. And he also has like a lot of cool merch that he sells that's very like horror and whiskey infused. And if you could imagine that mashup, and you think that's something you'd like, definitely check him out with Whiskey Morgue merch is the site on Instagram. And I also want to shout out Tim from Horror Flicks and Guitar Picks podcast. Again, just a really cool guy, kind of doing the same thing that we're into heavy music and talking about horror films. And definitely check them out, support them. They're a lot of fun, especially if you like this podcast. They're pretty similar, so we like like-minded people.
Awesome. We'll check all those people out. So what do you say? We got Gino waiting in the room. My ice is melting, so I want to get to drinking. So
I'm nervous.
ready? All right.
I'm a little nervous.
Let's bring him on. Hang on. Gino is it? Hey, Gino, what's going on?
Hello. Hi, guys. How's it going?
What's up?
We're doing well. So, yeah, I introduced you earlier. We have a writer, director, filmmaker, Geno McGahee here. Gino has a new movie just came out a couple of weeks ago called Scary Tales Dark Walker. You can find it on Tubi TV. Is there anywhere else we could find it right now, or that's kind of where it is?
That's where it is right now, but I'm sure it'll end up on Amazon like usual, and I know it's coming to Blu-ray. So,
That's awesome.
so yeah, exciting times. It's doing good on Tubi, so I'm happy where it is right now, and hopefully it flourishes other places.
Yeah, so how I know Gino, I've known him indirectly for a very long time. We both kind of make films for the same distributor. So we've kind of crossed paths a little bit, but I actually haven't met Gino in person until I think it was a year ago. He was out here in LA. Gino's from the East Coast. I believe you're from Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, the Western Mass.
Yeah, he's from Western Mass, and he came out here to shoot a couple of movies last year. And one of the movies he shot was a Western called Deadly Western. And I was thinking about shooting a Western, but I wanted to like just see what the experience was like being on a Western set with horses and wranglers and all of that stuff. So I actually came to set a couple days and helped Gino out. And what I learned is that I never ever want to make a Western because not that like again nothing to do with you or the filmmaking, but first of all it was freezing on the ranch. It was really cold.
It was.
I don't do well with the cold, and dealing with horses is not something that I ever want to deal with personally. So Gino, like what was like how do you feel about it, like your experience there? Was it like would you do it again, or are you just like glad I did it and I'm good?
I would do it again, but I was naive because I'm a New Englander, and so I'm like, I'm not gonna worry about the cold in California because I'm a New Englander. You know, I'm gonna show these guys what's up. And I go there, it's like freaking 35 degrees and the wind is whipping, and the only thing I brought was my fleece. So I became like a big wimp there. So I could deal with the horses outside of the one that nearly killed Louis, but otherwise I would do it again. But I would definitely bundle up because it was freezing, and I got so much windburn. Like in my photos, you can see how red I am. That's not from the sun. That's from windburn from that freaking desert town. So yeah, it was such a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time, but it was brutal. And I'm glad you brought up the near incident that happened, and that's really what pushed me over the edge as to why I'm never going to make a Western. So let me set the stage for y'all. So we're shooting this scene. Geno's directing the scene, and it involved like a shootout between like the big bad and this other character. And there were some horses in the background, just kind of tied up to posts. Maybe there's just one horse tied up to a post, just for background. And what I've learned is that anything involving horses, you kind of need to run it exactly how you're going to do it, like for them, so they could see it, so there's no surprises. And you did the right thing. They had like cowboys on set. There were probably like 4 different people on set trying to keep everybody safe. Unfortunately, those guys, and I think there was a female too, were basically drinking Crown Royal all day. So I don't know
Yep.
how much help they were. But so what ends up happening is they do the shootout scene. Louis, who plays the big bad, falls down dead, and the horse is chained up, just chilling. And a couple of people came out of one of the buildings, like, and the horse just didn't expect it, freaked out, ran as fast as it could, took the post out of the ground with them. So this giant
Oh
wooden
my God.
like fence basically is being dragged behind this horse, and the horse literally stomped its way through the set and almost stepped on this one actor's head by maybe 6 inches. And the wrangler said, like, well, they're trained not to step on dead bodies, but that said, it was dragging behind this giant wooden thing that's bouncing on the ground. Almost, I like literally, this guy almost died in front of us, and it
Oh
was
my God.
terrifying to me. And it was just one of those fucking freak things, man. It's just like you can't predict it. And even if like the wranglers weren't drinking whiskey, there was nothing anyone could do. Like this, you couldn't stop it. Like it was too fast. Like even if this is the most like expensive high budget set, this would have happened and that would have been it. So that I said, I'm not doing a Western, man. I give you credit. I give you credit for doing it, but yeah, not for me. So I'm glad I got that experience to help out and be there. And also it's great to like meet you and like see your process. And I always like helping out and watching how other filmmakers work. It kind of like just shows me, kind of like just gives me ideas as to what I should incorporate. So we're gonna get to know Geno a little bit, but before we do that, my ice is melting, as I said. So we're gonna pour some whiskey over here, and I know Geno's drinking some Jameson. I bought the same thing. He's drinking it neat. I'm going to drink with ice because that's how I drink it. Jerry, what do you got over there?
You know what? I hate you fucking guys. Geno, I just met you, but fuck you.
Yeah,
Look
we all
at
got
this.
triple
Look
Jameson.
This
Triple
is
Jameson.
fantastic.
And I actually never drank this before on ice. I have no idea what it's gonna taste like. I'm expecting the worst because I'm actually not a fan. And I'm blaming you two if I hate this for the whole night, but
I
I have this
No,
bottle.
I'll be
I
honest.
think you're gonna dig it.
Yeah,
It's good stuff.
I
Yeah,
love
all
Jameson.
right.
It's a great, like, for $20. I love it. I buy it all the time. It's what goes to the decanters and what I drink. So anyway, so without further ado, cheers.
Cheers. Cheers. Have you guys had Dead Rabbit Irish whiskey?
I've never even heard of that.
You know, it's I just had it like last month, and I gotta say, it's like way smoother than Jameson. About twice as expensive, but if you want to have a good night, it's a good way to go.
I do want to have a good night. It's important. I actually like the Jameson that's like in the IPA barrels, and there's like a stout one too that's in stout
That's good.
barrels. Those I really like too, but I only had $20 and those were 23. So this is what I got today. So Jerry, what are your thoughts? Like how bad do you hate it?
I am actually shocked right now. So normally my delivery system for Jameson is usually a warm shot. And it's usually after a night of drinking and drinking other types of bourbons and whiskeys. I'm gonna say this is a lot smoother and tastier than I ever expected. It has a really nice taste to it.
It's
And
surprising, right?
I'm compared to the shot taste versus in a proper glass with some ice. Let me take one more sip. Hold on a second.
Yeah. Let's.
Let me tell you something. I'm tasting like some fruity kind of notes, and it's smooth. It's smooth, and I didn't think I would taste any sort. I don't know if it's sweetness, but it's like sugary almost. I didn't know I would taste anything at all like that, and I certainly thought it was gonna burn like hell, but it's not. So, I take back what I said not even 5 minutes ago. I apologize, guys. This is a pretty good drink. This
I
is
know
I've
what
pretty
been
you
good.
mean
called
too,
worse.
because like whenever people are like, let's do shots, I don't do tequila. And I'm always like, fine, let's do Jameson. It's like one that like people will always agree on. And I agree. It's like I'm not a big shot person either, and it's not good as a shot, but sipping it on ice and I know Gino's drinking it neat is I buy it all the time. So okay, so we're gonna talk about some '90s horror movies. We're gonna again, I said we're gonna talk about the original Blair Witch Project. We're gonna talk about the original Scream, and we're gonna talk about Urban Legend. Before that, we do want to like talk about Gino a little bit, and I mentioned his movie Scary Tales Dark Walker is out. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with you or this film, just like give us the pitch on it. Like tell us why people should watch it or what they should expect.
Well, the basic idea was prior to Dark Walker, I did Scary Tales Dead Zone, and Dead Zone did way better numbers than I anticipated it to do. It was kind of a keep busy film. Not that I'm dismissing it, but I shot it in 4 days. I know that's what you guys do there all the time.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
I don't, and so it was. I kind of threw it together. I didn't spend a lot of money on it, and then it did really well. And so uh, Greg came to me and said, "Can you have you thought about a sequel?" And that's when I started to think, well, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. Because people, in Dead Zone, the alien masks cost me about 10 cents, and the Muffin Man mask didn't cost me much more. I didn't spend much on it at all. And in this upcoming movie, Dark Walker, which is out, I put everything into it. I got a great lens. I got a bunch of monsters. My friends that are involved in my production began telling me that I was putting too much into it because not money, creatures. So I have aliens, demons, zombies, the Dark Walker, the Muffin Man. I wanted, my goal with this film, and not to keep rambling here, but my goal with this film was to give the audience what they want, because I've gotten complaints before as far as my gore scenes aren't long enough, my action sequences are too quick. So I decided to savor the flavor here and really bring it. And there's not many creature features, anymore, especially like a monster mash sort of thing like I have. So that's what they're going to get. They're going to get government conspiracy, a mystery, a bunch of twists and turns, some gore, and a bunch of monsters with a little bit of comedy. The goal is to entertain, and I've done that. I hope I have.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, you've made a ton of movies. IMDb has you at like 19 films. I don't know if that's the number or not, but you've done a ton of films. And to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of them, but because there are so many. But yeah, I did notice like the horror comedy. Is that kind of like where your heart is, doing things that are like, a little bit scary, a little bit fun, like kind of tongue in cheek? Is that kind of like what you would say your vibe is?
It is. Well, the problem is, yeah, because the way my mind works, I'm always, if someone says something, even if they're serious, I have to catch myself because I have some comeback. I could bring up examples, but I've had buddies that have had like little tragedies in their lives, and I'm consoling them, but I got this little voice in my head that throws out these one-liners. And so when I make a horror film, it's very hard for me to make a horror film that is uh Exorcist. There's going to be, as I write the dialogue back and forth, the comedy will come out. It would be very difficult for me to be disciplined enough to write a straight out horror film. So the answer is yes, because you've probably seen Amityville Emmanuel, which is the film that I was shocked that was ever made, because that was the film where I wrote that one over a bottle of, actually 2 bottles of wine. One night, I wrote that whole thing. And I remember it was like 8 o'clock the next morning. I'm still writing. So when Greg told me he was producing it, I was like, oh no. But it actually came out good. So uh, to answer your question in my long-winded way there, yeah, I'm absolutely comedy horror hybrid, and going full comedy soon.
Amityville Emmanuel actually got like a write-up in Bloody Disgusting like a week or two ago, I think I saw, which was pretty cool. Like, I think they're doing a thing where they pick like one Amityville movie a month to talk about, and they talked about your movie, which again, always good to get. There's so many. We did a whole Amityville episode, and I think we determined there at the time there was like 64 different Amityville movies. Now there's probably double that, right?
Yeah, I
But
definitely gotta check this one out. I'm a huge Amityville fan, Gino. I'm actually currently right now in Amityville, so I'm
Oh, no
very
kidding.
excited. Yeah, so I definitely try to represent the town, and I always see it kind of pop up. and I'm definitely gonna watch it now that I met you. So this is exciting.
Yeah, Jerry lives on the block with the Amityville house, by the way.
Oh no! Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. Now I'm gonna get stalkers. That's it, man. They're not coming to see the house. Come see me.
There you go.
So Gino, you said you're looking to do like a comedy. Is that what's up next for you? Like, what do you got going on?
Yeah, the two things I have going on is the Scary Tales series, which I'll probably shoot sporadically over the winter. But the big one is next fall is my comedy, which is kind of like Step Brothers, Freddy Got Fingered. That's sort of like gutter humor, which is in my heart. And that's the one where we're really pushing it, and really that's like I do big, like I consider some things like small projects and some things like bigger deals for me. And so the comedy I feel is going to be one of these bigger projects where there's a lot of like action sequences and a lot of like locations. So it's going to be a pain, but I've been eager to make a comedy, and you know, and see how it goes. Because I was surprised the Christmas Invitation did as well as it did, because that was kind of like comedy drama. And when you step away from doing horror for so long, you don't know if the crowd will follow you. And thankfully they did, or maybe a new crowd. So that's next for me, the series, and then the comedy next fall.
Yeah, comedy's tough, and I'll be honest, I don't think I could do a comedy. Like, I don't think I could write it. I don't think I could shoot it. I like occasionally will have scenes that are unintentionally funny where I'll get laughs and I'm like, oh shit, I didn't realize that was funny. But if I actually try to write comedy, I think I just don't have that skill. So I wish you luck and give you credit for being able to, like, incorporate that into something, because you do need breaks sometimes. You do need something that kind of cuts it, especially if you're doing something that's like intense or scary or gory or things like that. So very cool.
I appreciate you, Rich, man, and your work, because when I watch it, I'm like, holy crap, this is pretty. This is, I mean, you really,
Thank you.
no, I watched Maydroid, and I thought that was fantastic, and congratulations on the success of it. And I look forward to the sequel coming up. So congrats on that, man. I'm very impressed by your work.
I really appreciate that. That means a ton. It's always nice when, again, another filmmaker will give me those praise. I really appreciate that. Thank you. So Gino, before we kind of get into talking about some of these films tonight, like, how could people find you? Like, how do they learn about you? Like, what do you want to promote?
They can go to my website, scaredstiffreviews.com. They can read my movie reviews and learn more about me, and they can also go to Facebook or Twitter or any of the usual suspects and find me there on social media. I accept and love everybody. So if they send me a request, I'll gladly accept it, even if they just want to tell me I suck. I'm okay with that too. Just so, yeah, anyone that's interested, they can also go to Tubi, type my name in, and watch binge my movies, and hopefully don't start with my initial ones. Start somewhere in the middle or end, and work your way back.
So whenever, like, I get asked this question, like, I always say, like, my most recent film, usually, because that's the one I'm usually like the most stoked about, and I feel like I grow as a filmmaker every time. Other than Scary Tales Dark Walker, if you had to pick one movie for people to watch, that, like, what would you tell people to try as their first Geno McGahee film?
Fatal Justice, I think, would be the one. I think that's the one where it was just the perfect storm. It means a lot to me for various reasons, but I'm a big fan of 12 Angry Men, and that was kind of like my tribute to that. And I just think it's like so well acted, and it's some of my best writing. So I would go with that if people want to, be introduced to me. Fatal Justice, the way to go. What a great cast, and it was great getting the two groups together.
And, like, what's that about? Just give me the premise. I've seen it, but for the people listening.
It's about a young college girl that is murdered, and the suspected killer is let off on a technicality. So the family kidnaps the killer, and they put him on their own trial. And soon things start to get exposed, and not everything is as it seems. And so it's basically a family battling what is the right thing to do. If he is the killer, is it right to kill him? Is it right to have family justice? So that's what it's about. But there's twists and turns in there that I think people will really dig. I like surprises. I think most people do. So it's a flat out thriller drama with plenty of tension.
Very cool. All right, Fatal Justice, check that out. So, well, I'm sure I'll have more questions for you, Gino, about you and your work and stuff like that. But let's talk about some fucking movies. So we're gonna start off. Let's talk about the original Blair Witch Project from 1999, and I'm sure I've said it on the show, and if I haven't, I'm going to say it now. As Jerry knows, I am actually not a fan of found footage movies. I personally I personally can't stand them and will never watch another one again. However, I did rewatch Blair Witch Project, and I will say at the time when this came out, it was pretty revolutionary. And it wasn't the first found footage movie. Like you go back to like Cannibal Holocaust, and I'm sure there were other ones that I've never seen. But in 1999, like most people had never seen a found footage movie. And it was a very different way to tell a story that, again, has been duplicated hundreds of times since then. And what they did that, unless you were like paying attention at the time or alive at the time or old enough to notice, like they did an incredible marketing campaign where they made it really feel like this really happened, and that there's three characters in the movie that are documenting, basically they go into the woods trying to like do a documentary film about the Blair Witch, and bad shit happens, and they marketed it, and people really did believe that these people really died and that this was the footage that they found. So and they did a really clever job of that. So I give them a ton of credit. They did something completely unique and original. However, again, I personally don't like this genre of film. I know Jerry loves this genre of film, so he's going to have a lot more positive things to say. But before we got to get into it, Gino, have you made a found footage movie?
No, and I wouldn't. I'm kind of on the same page with you to a degree, Rich, but I really marvel at the marketing of the Blair Witch. I'm a huge fan of it because they understood the one thing about humanity that a lot of people don't. People love bullshit. We love Bigfoot specials. We love alien
It's
specials. We
true.
love ghost hunters, and so they tapped into that. And they also they came out when the internet was in its infancy. No one really knew what it was. So you're seeing these news sites that you take as real news sites of these three kids being abducted or gone missing. They just it was they as they say, timing is everything. They nailed it, and I do think it's a good movie. I think most found footage are complete shit, and that's the problem. Is that like Paranormal Activity. Oh my God,
Uh-oh,
fucking terrible.
Jerry's about to get pissed. He loves Paranormal Activity.
Dude, I love it. I do my college thesis on it.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Well, it
No,
had a
it's
good
all right.
ending.
No.
It had a good ending.
Now, we don't have to agree. It's totally fine. We do not have to agree.
But yeah, the Blair Witch was just marketing genius. It also created that conversation between people, because I remember going to see it, and before I went to see it, I was talking to everyone about it. Everyone was so enamored with it, and I think everyone knew it was bullshit. But like I said, everyone loves bullshit, and the idea that it might be real, just like the Patterson Gimlin Bigfoot footage. I want it to be real so bad, so I'll tell people, hey, they haven't disproven it yet. So kudos to Blair Witch, and but it did set off the found footage craze, which still kind of lives today a little bit. It just I think there was too much of it, but when it's done right, like anything else, it's good.
And I think one thing that they really did right with this, it's how they did the movie too. And I personally wouldn't do this as a filmmaker because I do think it's a bit cruel. But what they did was, the actors gave this like they were given this like 35-page outline and just said, here, go in the woods and film. And basically the producers or director or whoever just kind of fucked with them. Like when they're like arguing over being lost, like they're legit lost. And a lot of the frustration that comes off in the film, because I'm watching this movie and I'm like, oh, these people are actually like really good actors. Like but then I read, and like a lot of it wasn't acting. A lot of it they were really fighting and bickering, and because they were just miserable. And I think I read that they were given less food every day to kind of make them more irritable. So it was a bit of a science experiment too. So really just interesting. But yeah, like I think that really kind of helps sell the authenticity of it, because it does feel, again, I was like, these people are great. They're amazing actors. Like, why have they not done more? And then I'm like, oh, it's because they were just literally pushed to the brink.
Yeah, and you're right though. But some people I don't get that as a director to abuse. I know even like during The Exorcist, that happened as well, but like much worse. But I can't imagine just to get that reaction to starve people or freeze them to death or whatever. At least we were freezing in the desert by choice.
I mean, they did it to Leonardo DiCaprio in The Revenant, right? And he got the Oscar. I think they made him basically almost freeze to death. So, like, I guess.
Yeah. So maybe there's some method to the madness.
Yeah. So Jerry, I know you love this movie. So like, tell us, right? Do you love this? I know you like the genre.
I do.
So
I do. No, I do like this film, but what I do want to talk about real quick is really just the set of films that we're watching. We're talking about in this episode. They're all really from the 90s, and I found it very interesting, especially being that Gino just said like he didn't like love found footage films, but yet he chose this film. So I just wanted to ask him, like why 90s films? Are these like your favorite like decade? Is this are these the films that like inspire you? Are they just fun? Is there nostalgia involved? Is there a reason why you chose 90s films?
Um, Not my favorite era, but I think Blair Witch is probably what sparked it in my mind because I'm a marketing guy, and it's just when it comes to an example of a film, because I always think with my films how I'm going to market it, and that is like the best example of a great marketing. So I think that hit me, and then I was on a kick of watching the Scream movies and the later Halloween movies, and so but I would have gladly 80s or 70s, like the 70s. Kind of the drive-in films, kind of like my favorite sort of like era to watch. But 80s good too. I guess I'm rambling here a little bit, but I suppose that any really rules, outside of like I'm not impressed with like modern day horror for the most part, but like you go back to like the early 2000s, the 90s, the 80s, the 70s, and even the 60s, I'll take it all. But Blair Witch, Scream, I think they kind of changed the direction of horror, so I kind of thought that was a good talking point too.
Yeah, and 90s films are kind of having a resurgence now, right? And there's a lot of films that are kind of trying to duplicate that again. Like you see the success of the new Scream films. And we watched a couple movies recently, Jerry, where we're like, oh, this is totally like influenced by 90s movies. I'm personally not a huge fan of 90s horror, but you do see it coming up a lot. I'm sorry, Jerry, I cut you off.
No, it's all right. I'm just glad you guys said this. And yeah, that 90s nostalgia is definitely coming back. It's definitely a vibe. I think all the films do have a very unique feel that do feel different from, say, like the 2000s or the 80s. Some people would say it's the best decade of horror films. I don't. But what I did think of
Oh, this is not going to be
is that this would be a great
good.
time for us to play a little drinking game. So
Oh no.
Yeah.
So Gino, I'm glad
Yes.
that you mentioned how many, different decades and stuff like that and different films you like. Okay, so I create a little game that's basically that we're gonna play tonight, and it's really just gonna kind of compare to see if we could tell the difference between the 80s vibe and the 90s vibe. And it's a really simple game, and it's called Is It 1989 or 1990? And I'm gonna name some films, and you just have to guess if it came out in 1989 or 1990. And this could be very easy if you know your shit, or it could be a guess. It's 50-50. But if you get it right, Rich and I are going to drink. And if you get it wrong, you're going to take a sip. So it's pretty
I'm there.
simple. So yeah, it's
Uh,
pretty simple.
I'm there. I'm
All
down.
right. All right. So I know I usually have to kind of repeat the rules to Rich a few times.
I got it. I got
Rich,
it. He gets it
Rich,
right. We
he
drink.
gets it
He gets
right.
it
We
wrong.
drink.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So Gino,
Wait,
are you
what? What are we
ready to
supposed to do? What's
see?
okay?
So Gino, are you ready?
I am ready, sir.
Okay. Nightbreed.
89.
90. You got it wrong.
90.
You drink.
All right.
You know
Take a
what?
sip.
I was actually going to say 89 too.
Well, it's tough. It's you have to like kind of go with the feel. So I think I chose some tough ones. All right, I'll let Gino refill
Gino's reporting
because we
already.
got we have a
Here.
few.
Yeah, okay.
I
Let's-
poured heavy the first time. Yeah, Gino. Just so you know, this is going to be a long night.
It seems like it seems that way. But I like the game. I don't like my luck, but let's give it a whirl.
Somehow I'll lose out of all this, so it doesn't matter. But we'll see.
We'll see.
Okay, here we go. Next one, The Abyss.
I'm not going to second guess myself. I'm saying 89.
Correct. We drink.
Woo.
All right, now we're rolling. Warlock.
90.
89. You drink.
Ah.
When I was a kid, I loved that movie. I watched it recently. I'm like, ooh, this is terrible. But I was like 10 years old. I used to watch that all the
That
fucking
was the
time.
shit. Okay, here we go. Intruder.
Oh, that's definitely 89.
89.
Ugh.
I'm surprised it's not 86 or 87.
It feels it. Yeah, it feels old.
It sure does.
All right. Jacob's Ladder.
89.
1990.
Ah, I knew it. You know, that film feels on the line.
That's a fucked up movie.
I tried to find ones that where the mood was a little off. So that was the whole point of this, to make
You're
it
doing
not
your
that easy.
job well. You're
All
doing your
right.
job incredibly well.
Finally a drinking game that's working. All right. Clown House.
Oh, 89. It has to be 89.
Correct. Brain Dead.
Brain Dead. That has to be 89.
1990.
Really?
Yes.
Damn you.
It feels it. It feels like an 89 movie.
It
so.
does. I can see the cover art right in my head.
Oh wait, I drank. Why was I drinking? See, I
I
already
know,
forgot.
man. You're just used to it. See? All right. Got a couple more here. All right, ready? Skinned Alive.
Ooh. 89.
90.
Oh my God. You bastards.
All righty. Here's an interesting one. Frankenhooker.
You know, I'm gonna lose again. I'm thinking 89 again. I'm going 89.
90.
You got me 90 again. You
90.
set me up. See, this is
90.
this is a talent because you found movies that look completely 80s.
That's it.
And
I tried.
I would have said
I
89 too
tried.
on that one.
Well, I'm glad you said that, Rich.
Ah!
Because so Gino, I'd say you got about a C- on that one. So you got some right.
You're being
But you
generous.
got some wrong. I'm gonna see if Rich, who claims to be some sort of expert in the years that movies were put out, so I'm gonna ask him a few, and it's gonna be the same rules, except this time when he gets them right, you and I drink, and when he gets it wrong, he drinks.
I'm
So-
usually an expert at this, but yeah, I've failed every one of Gino's. I think I got every one of
Yeah,
this
so
wrong.
this is so again. I think I might have found my sweet spot here with these films. So
all right.
I might be throwing a softball to you right now.
Let me pour a
Rich.
little more. Hold on.
Yeah, maybe this is a softball, but we'll see. I feel like you're gonna get this one, but then we'll see how it goes. Ready?
All right, let's do it.
Society.
90.
89.
Damn, I was trying to play the game. I was like, because it seems like such an 80s movie. Fuck.
It does. That's how he got me, Rich.
I was trying to do reverse psychology on that and I got fucked.
That's how I got
Damn
fucked.
it.
All right. Basket Case 2.
I don't know. 90.
Correct.
Whew, I did. Okay, that reverse psychology
drank.
worked that time. All right. Because it does feel like it would be in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. Pet Cemetery.
89.
Correct.
Yeah, that one I actually know because I just know that one.
All right, I messed up a little bit here, and this one is actually the last one. So usually with the last one, we like to wager a little bet to see, if we put a lot on the line here, if that will throw Rich off a little bit. So Rich, for this last one, you could bet 1 to 3 sips, and if Gino agrees that we may have to take 3 sips, are you going to wager a bet?
So I got 50-50 on mine. Fucked up every one of Gino's. But yeah, you know what? Like I had a rough day. I'm gonna let's do triple or nothing. 3 sips.
3 sips. Okay, so Gino, if he gets it right, you and I are gonna have to take 3 sips. But if he gets it wrong,
I've taken like 100 sips already. I'm pretty fucked as it is. So
we still got movies to go, man.
We got like 2.5 movies to go through. All right, so here we go. 3 sips on this one, and I'm rolling the dice. Witch Trap.
My gut wants me to say 89, but that seems too obvious. Yeah, 89. Oh, yes.
You got it right. I was hoping you would change your mind.
yeah, man.
All right, 3 sips for us, Gino.
All right.
Oh, did we get a release form from Gino? Like Casey goes drinks too much. You're not driving heavy machinery, right?
Well,
No,
that's
worst
it.
case scenario, I don't do well at work tomorrow, but I'm not worried about my work performance tomorrow. So fuck it.
I never do.
Yeah. This is more important than any job. Come on, let's talk about fucking horror movies. All right, so like,
fucking ain't right.
so that game was fun. I actually survived. Did way better than I thought. Some people did not survive so well. I mean, is there anything more anyone wants to say about Blair Witch?
Yeah, of course. I think
like one thing.
Talk about Blair Witch. You didn't talk about anything.
Yeah, so I mean, a couple of notes I have is that the original budget was around 20 to 25 grand, but then once it got like picked up by a studio, they spent basically another $500,000 on like post production and stuff like that. So interesting fact that I don't know what that money went to because it's not like there's really anything going on like special effects or anything like that, but maybe just cleaned up some of the shaky cam stuff. Like I wonder what they actually did with that money. And it wasn't just to market it, I don't think. I think it was just to actually get the movie ready for audiences.
Did you guys see the last broadcast?
I have
Yes.
not.
Okay, because I know there was some controversy when Blair Witch came out that the idea initially came from that film, and the Blair Witch just kind of ran with the idea.
I mean, I don't even think they compare as far as films. I think the last broadcast is almost unwatchable, and the Blair Witch I've watched many, many times in my life, and probably just like you two, I was lucky enough to see it in the theaters, which I think really kind of brought like this crazy atmosphere on the crowd because we didn't have so much exposure to seeing film trailers and getting behind the scenes information and production and directors and things like that. This is definitely a fledgling time for the internet, so we didn't have that exposure. And I think walking into it and sitting in that crowd, I really remember a sense of tension like within the crowd, and people were really reacting to really not what they were seeing on the screen, but maybe just what the actors were experiencing and hearing. And I mean, to get a group of people to be able to do that and really suspend reality for that long. And I think it was that was revolutionary. I mean, there are
Mhm.
times where basically we're looking at a black screen. Before this film, has anyone ever done that before? You're just looking at a black screen and you're just hearing like some noises, and I was scared. I'm not gonna lie, like it was scary, and you kind of put yourself in those actors' situation. I mean, honestly, being lost in the woods, that's real. That's a real fear that I personally have, which is why I don't go camping. And my wife knows this because I'm scared I'm gonna get lost. And I really believed, and hearing what you just said before, Rich, that they kind of just set him out there, not really knowing where they were going. I mean, you felt that dread, and I thought that was great. I think it really sold it. I think I know you hate the shaky cam, but at the time, I think it sold it as a documentary. They did some interviews with some town people, like as the movie was kind of like revving up. They didn't look like actors. I don't know how they chose people. They just look like they literally look like they pulled people from a town and interviewed them. Again, that kind of adds that authenticity. So I think the movie as a whole, um, it works. It really, really works. And I think a lot of things that happen are probably scarier and more interesting than what actually happens on the screen. But I think it makes for a great watch. And I can see why this film is really a classic, and it gets like, really the notoriety it does. I mean, it's a really interesting film, I think.
And it is scary. When I went to go see it, the scariest line of the whole film for me was when she's running and she says, "What the fuck is that?" They don't show anything. My mind filled it in. Uh, I was very quick to grab the person next to me and say, "Hold me." I was that terrified. It was a legit scary situation, but I think we allowed ourselves to accept it. This is a cool thing about art is that they gave the narrative, and we walked in accepting it. Because of course I think everyone deep down knew it's not legit, but the fact that we could go in and say we're gonna suspend that, we're gonna pretend it is, and that's where the tension came from. I'm totally with you because when I went to go see it, I was in this packed cinema and it was silent. Like everyone was just so into it. And I don't think you can capture this anymore. Yeah, everything is just so overly produced that there was a certain rawness, and at that time like independent film was just surging, like cuz Clerks was big around the same time I think. And so people, and then I used to get the underground magazines of all these indie films because I was that cool, and I made sure everyone knew I was that cool back then. I know shit you don't, and
He's the Mike McGarvey.
I was I
Inside
was a
joke. Inside
douchebag,
joke.
but but with Blair Witch, yeah, it was so amazing, such an experience, and you know, I compare it to I just saw a couple months ago that Kong versus Godzilla shit
Oh
show.
God, yeah.
And 2.5 hours of me trying to just figure out, not to end it all. Comparing the two, there's no comparison. It's amazing that one film can be made on $800 billion and be complete shit, and one film could be made on whatever it is, 25 grand, and can be so impactful. It shows you, like, art isn't defined necessarily by the checkbook.
I mean, look, I agree. I agree with you all there. Like, I give them credit for what they did, but I had a different experience. I did see this in the theater, and I do remember, like, when the movie was over, everybody being like, "Huh?" Like, I always feel like the ending was so underwhelming, and maybe that was the point, just for it just to kind of end. And like, I get what was happening, but I remember thinking like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, I just felt like it just, I don't know what it needed. Like, how do you end a movie that's trying to be realistic, like without showing like gore and violence? And I think, and maybe it was effective for some people, but I do remember walking out of that theater and everybody was just kind of confused. Maybe they just didn't explain it enough, or I don't know what it was, but I did have a problem with that. And I think what's interesting to me, there's a few things I don't like about found footage movies. One is the shaky cam does get me. Two is the movies usually take forever to get going. This one's a little different though. This one like kind of like gets you right in with the interviews, and I think like the tension, they get lost 17 minutes in, so it is a little better. But there's so many where they're trying to like develop these characters by having them do like mundane banter for too long, and it drives me crazy. The other thing, it's interesting, like I could watch like a non-found footage movie and I could suspend disbelief. For whatever reason in found footage I can't, and the reason is like no one would be having the camera like throughout all of this. Like I get maybe for like the first half of Blair Witch, but like once shit's like going weird, like you're running through the woods, like why would you be holding a camera? And like you wouldn't. Like it just, so to me, I'm just like, it just takes me out of it for some reason. Maybe I'm just thinking I overthink it and I should just like be entertained, but I do overthink it. And I think like, why are you still recording? And if I was like the other two guys and this woman is still recording me, I'd be like, turn that fucking camera off. Like we're lost, we're starving. Like it would just like, I don't know. But one thing I will say about this movie, and I will say a positive thing, is I do like when a movie makes me feel emotion. And this movie did make me feel emotion. It made me feel anxious. And I think it gave me a lot of anxiety because again, the arguing and the bickering, and it just got to me. And I felt like I was there with them. And I give them credit for that. And that was like something that I haven't seen in another found footage movie really other than this. So as much as I don't like this movie, they did accomplish certain things for me as someone who, as someone who hates found footage, like for them to do that, I give them a lot of credit.
Did you have more of appreciation, Rich, for it when you saw the Blair Witch, I guess, sequel that came out like 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, where they basically recreated the whole movie, and then at the end they had a big CGI Blair Witch haul ass into the house? Because when I saw that, I loved the first Blair Witch, but it made me love it more because I'm like, this is why they didn't show the witch to begin with. Because I I'm not opposed to CGI, but why do they always have to look the same?
Yeah.
Put the Conjuring, put the new Blair Witch, put them all side by side. You're gonna see the same video game demon guy that you see in everything. That's like with Smile. I loved Smile until the very end because of that terrible CGI. So
Yeah, I will take the original Blair Witch over the remake that they did any day. Like like they're the same movie but completely different. And again, one does feel more real, the original. The other one just feels like a money grab. And
yep.
again, just like trying to appease a different kind of audience, where one was like trying to be shocking and new and different. So again, and I always like take my hat off to any filmmaker who does something I haven't seen before. And at the time I hadn't seen this movie before. So like thumbs up for them.
I definitely think they were clever, though. I mean, we're talking about now when everyone is always filming everyone, and it's actually probably a lot easier to get away with found footage because people are just filming just to live stream. People are filming for social media. They're filming for many reasons, but back then people weren't really filming. And I think the interesting part in this film is at one point, I think they just realized that they were doomed and they were just kind of filming for prosperity. They knew they weren't going to make it, and they were just kind of filming the last hours, days of their life. And I think one of the most powerful moments of this entire film is when Heather, who was the woman filmmaker who was actually the narrator of the documentary, where she just realizes that they're not going to survive, and she gives like that monologue, basically just right up against the camera, and she's like apologizing to her family. She's apologizing to her family. She's like kind of taking responsibility for everything that's happening. And to me, that just felt like real. And I was like, is this person an amazing actor? Or is this person, just are they living in this moment? And again, I didn't know any of this background information that Rich shared. And I just wonder, I mean, just to deliver something that powerful to me, um, I just wonder if she was just kind of feeling hopeless at that moment, because I really enjoyed that part. And to me, that is the actual ending of the film. Anything really after that is just kind of like, rolling it out. But I feel like that's the moment where the film ends and we're just watching like what happens next.
I agree. That is like the impact moment, and they knew it too because they ran with that. Every time you saw a promo for it, they showed her saying, "I'm sorry" to Josh's mom and Mike's mom, and so yeah, she was great in it, and maybe it was because he ran her ragged. Maybe that's why, and maybe the ends justified the means. Maybe you have to. I guess I'd have to ask her. But the film itself, it was so good, and there I can't think of another like found footage film that comes close to that. Like maybe it just broke the balloon where it's like, okay, we created great, fantastic bullshit, but now we know everything from now
You know
on
the
is
trick,
bullshit.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know the trick, so it's exposed. And the directors, they're not prolific directors. I don't even think they done anything really outside this. Eduardo Sanchez and Daniel Myrick, I think, are their names. And I don't think the actors have really done anything either. So it's like they just kind of like this one hit wonder, and it's like, they just left you. They just like dropped the mic and they left. And it is hard to do anything after this. I agree.
The guy who played Mike played a pervert on SVU, so
Mm.
he did
That was
have
his
that
big
one.
moment.
That was oh yeah, yeah. I don't think you've made it in acting unless you've played a sex offender on SVU. That I appreciate that. So he has in his IMDb, I was lost in the woods with a ghost witch, and I also am a diddler. So it all kind of works out. But maybe they could do a crossover because I love SVU, I love Blair Witch. I'd like to see Stabler and Benson hunt down the Blair Witch.
I'm listening.
All right, now you guys are out of my realm, so I want to get to we have 2 more movies and a lot more drinking to
Yeah.
do, so let's wrap this up. So Gina, what we do here is we rate each film from a scale of 0 to 5 bloody knives, and you can do halves. And how this is going to work, if you have not listened to the podcast before, is I am going to get. Oh, I'm sorry. You need to pick Jerry or myself, and the reason is I'm going to give my rating, and Jerry's going to drink that number of sips. He's going to give his rating, and I need to drink that number of sips. And you need to pick which one of us you want to drink with, and then you're going to give your rating, and Jerry and I are both going to take that number of sips. So you need to decide for the rest of the night who's going to be your drinking partner. Is it going to be me or Jerry? And it's right now you could probably say I would probably pick Jerry because I'm going to probably give low rating to this one. However, you don't know how I feel about the other two, so it's
That's kind of that's my that's how I'm thinking here. So I'm gonna go with Jerry
I think you made the right
because
move.
because I do think you're gonna give this a shit rating, but I got a feeling Scream and Urban Legend are gonna fare a lot better, and I'll be blitzed soon.
We will see.
So
We
yeah,
will
so
see.
so
Okay.
I'm with Jerry here. I think Jerry and I are on the same page. We both have great taste in film, and
I do
not
not.
that you don't, Rich.
No,
Not
no,
that you
it's fair.
don't.
It's fair.
I think if you and I were sitting together during Blair Witch, you would have definitely grabbed the guy next to me and held on to
I
out
would
of
have grabbed
fear.
you, buddy.
I would have grabbed you.
Oh hell yeah!
Like, get right in there. I'm not shy. All right, so Rich, what are you going to give probably the best found footage film ever made?
I'm gonna actually be generous. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Ah,
Hey!
ah.
I could have gone
I'm
low
actually
on this one.
surprised. Yeah, I'm
I was gonna go
surprised.
lower, but then like you made me
Okay.
think about based on talking to you two, I kind of found a little better. So 2 sips from y'all.
Okay. All right. So here we go. 2 sips. All right. So I think I'm gonna go next. And Rich, I really like this film. I think this really kind of set off a genre, and usually, the original is the best. Just like Gino, I love the marketing. I love the SEO value they created by having a website beforehand. That way, when you heard about the movie, you Googled it and you went right to their website. It was genius. And I don't think that will ever be duplicated again. It has to get props for that. I'm giving this film a 4.
Oh, okay. You know what? I thought you were gonna go higher. I'll do 4.
It's not really fair. You're watering it down, Rich.
I could have ice.
Ice is fine. Ice is definitely okay. All right, Gino,
All right.
you are up. We can't wait to hear.
Blair Witch Project is one of the best films ever made because of the marketing, because of the mystery, and what they did. They did what we aspire to do as filmmakers. Who doesn't want to fucking knock it out of the park on a film of a low budget? Because it's not the money, it's the idea. Like I said, King Kong. Why doesn't King Kong have a dick? That's another podcast. We'll talk about that. But Blair Witch, I give it a 5 out of 5. It's a perfect film for the time. I don't think they can improve on it. If you showed the Blair Witch, it would have taken away the mystery, sold it, the bullshit sold it. As I said, Patterson, Gimlin, Bigfoot footage, it's all the same. We're on the same like fucking line here. So and keep in mind, you guys made me drink, so this whole ramble here is your fucking fault. And so 5 out of 5. Blair Witch Project was just master marketing, master mystery, scary and intense as hell. And I still want to apologize to the guy I grabbed and held on to in the last 5 minutes.
All right,
He'll
let's do it,
forgive you.
Rich. 5
Cheers.
sips.
Okay, that was Blair Witch. We're going to move on to a very different kind of film. We're going to move on to the 1996 film Scream by Wes Craven. And I will say, look, they've done like 6 sequels of this movie. I also am not a huge fan of this. However, I will say when this movie came out, I went to the theater to see it. I might have went with Jerry to see it, actually. We might have went on a double date to see this movie. I forget. But saw this movie, and it was, at the time, like, horror was kind of dead. Like,
It was.
they were cracking down on violence and horror, and like there just wasn't anything, like there wasn't really a bloody R-rated kind of slasher movie for a while that was decent. And when this came out, it was kind of game changing. And you could look at it now, and there's like lots of things that I don't like about it now. But at the time, this was a really groundbreaking movie, and it was something that I hadn't seen before. And at the time, I was like, "Holy shit, this is like a 5-star movie right at the bat." Like we haven't had anything like this. And unfortunately, horror did go in a different direction, and lots of films copied this, and then they started doing it like a PG-13 kind of versions of Scream, and the teen horror thing really took off, unfortunately. But when this came out, again, I give them credit for making an R-rated, kind of bloody, fucked up horror movie. And again, it's one of those, like, it's iconic. It really is. Like, the costume that they used completely, like, I heard it's like the most popular costume out there still, which is wild to me. And just like movies filled with a lot of like, it was very meta too, where again, they're talking about like like the one character is like a horror fan, and he's talking about like this, like the actual what's happening to them as if it were a horror movie, and you hadn't seen that done before. It was really interesting. So for those of you who are not familiar with Scream, I'm sure most of you are, but Jerry, do you want to give the plot really quick?
Yeah, sure. I could give the plot. So basically, a year after her mother is killed by a man named Cotton Weary, Sidney Prescott and her friend group begin being stalked and killed by someone in a costume using horror tropes to kind of taunt and torture them. As the killer starts to focus on Sydney, she really needs to find out who the killer is, because now they're starting to focus on her and she could be next. So it's a bit of a mystery, and she's definitely the focus of the killer. But unfortunately, a lot of her her friends are getting offed in the meantime. And before we really dive into this movie, I do have a quick question for you, Rich and Gino. And the question is pretty simple. I mean, are you guys Wes Craven fans in general?
I love the man. I think he's hit and miss. I do, but when he hits out of the park. And the interviews that he's done, I have a respect for him as a person beyond filmmaker. I think he writes with his heart, and you don't always knock him out of the park. You know, I'm living proof. And so with Wes, you know, like when he finds his footing, he finds it well. And I think Scream is a great example. And Shocker. You know, Shocker is a film that I hated for 20 years, and then all of a sudden, after watching it 5 million times, it grew on me. And now I say Shocker is one of the best films ever made, give or take. And
How many whiskeys have you
That's a
had? Because
that's a bold
you know what?
statement, but
It's you motherfuckers invite me on the show, and I'm convinced you set me up.
well, we're
And by the way, Shocker 1989. Am I right?
actually I watched it yesterday. It is.
Get out of
Yeah.
here. Did you really?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
there
watched
you
it.
go.
I watched it yesterday. So Rich, are you a fan or are you not a fan of Wes Craven?
I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I will say Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorite movies of all time. I
All
love that
right.
movie. So
That's
Hell
good
yeah.
to know. So Rich and Gino, I have a little game that I want to play right now.
Oh, you
Oh.
bastards.
And it's like it's best that Rich never starts off with me, you know, to kind of introduce anything, because I'm always going to take the opportunity to kind of throw in a little drinking game into it. And this one's going to be pretty simple and it's going to be pretty easy, and we'll get done with this in about a minute. But it's really it's a classic game that we play on this show, and it's really the director's challenge. And this time it's the Wes Craven director's challenge.
Okay.
And really all you have to do is I'm going to name a movie that Wes Craven directed, and you don't think about it. You just answer. You just give it a thumbs up or you give it a thumbs down. No explanation, no nothing. Just a thumbs up, thumbs down. Now, here's the thing. If you give it a thumbs up, me and Rich drink. If you give it a thumbs down, oh wait, I'm sorry, I'm messing this up. If you give it a thumb, I had a lot of Jameson. I'm sorry. It's just
Not
it's-
as much as me, Jerry.
yeah, it's all right. If you get a thumbs up, nothing happens. And if you give it a thumbs down, Rich and I drink.
Oh.
And then I'm gonna switch it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna switch it, and then Rich will answer. Then you and I will possibly have to drink if he gives it a thumbs down. So nothing for thumbs up. We drink for thumbs down. Are you ready, Gino?
I am more than ready. And
Okay.
I may surprise you.
Well, Shocker is on the list. So I already know what that's going to be, but let's get to it. All right. Last house on the left.
That's thumbs down for those of you who can't see.
Mm,
Oh, I drink.
okay. Yeah. The Hills Have Eyes. That is a thumbs up.
Thumbs up. All
Well, we
right.
don't do anything. We don't do anything. All right. Nightmare on Elm Street.
I
I
can't
can't
see
see.
you. Oh, Gino, people, but we're mostly audio, by the way.
Oh,
Just to say
thumbs
thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up.
I'll
Nothing.
announce it when I do
Nothing.
it.
Okay. All right. Thumbs up. Deadly Friend.
Oh, you know what, Deadly Friend, I would go 3 thumbs up, but I'll just go the one.
Wow.
Deadly Friend is awesome.
Shocked.
It's definitely one of his better ones. When she throws that fucking basketball,
I
and
was
knocks
just
off
gonna
that
say,
old
yeah.
chick's head.
I don't like the movie, but that one scene is amazing. That one scene. I think last year I watched it, Jerry, for the horror challenge. I think I sent you video
Real.
of just
Yeah,
that
you sent
scene.
it. Yeah, I like that part, but that's about all I like from that
Yeah,
movie.
yeah.
All right, ready?
It's a great movie. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, Serpent and the Rainbow.
I wasn't a fan. I'm sorry.
Thumbs
Thumbs
down. You're giving
down.
it thumbs down. Okay.
So am I? Yeah, okay.
All right, so I know we're okay here because the next one's Shocker.
Oh, Shocker. You know, Shocker is
Thumbs up.
fucking awesome. You know, I sometimes wish some of my relatives were killed in the electric chair and came back, because it's such a cool story. It'd be cool if my dad came back and he had like these fucking electrical charges up his ass. But that's beside the point, Jerry.
Okay. All right, let's keep going here. New Nightmare.
Down.
Thumbs down.
I
Okay.
just think I think Wes just screwed the pooch. It just it was a good idea, good concept. I just didn't like it. And
Okay.
that kid, and you know what? I try not to be harsh on kid actors, but that kid, he annoyed the shit out of me.
Kid
So
sucked. Okay.
thumbs down.
All right. I think this is going to be like a little precursor. So Scream.
Scream is a big thumbs up.
Okay. And then finally, so I skipped ahead a little bit here just because it was a lot different and it was many, many years later. So I thought I'd revisit it with a surprise ending here with Scream 4.
Thumbs up.
All right.
Scream 4. Scream 4 reminds me of Halloween Resurrection, where they're underrated. They kind of like went with the current trends and they made it work. Stop fucking asking for so much. We're on Scream 4. How far can you take this fucking thing? You know, be happy. So yeah, Scream 4, good movie. Halloween Resurrection, good movie. Go Buster Rhymes. Welcome to Halloween, bitch. Or whatever he said.
All right. So that was Gino's take on it. And now we're going to move on to Rich. Rich, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Ready? Last house on the left.
I like it. Thumbs up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I drink.
Nope,
No,
we don't
no,
do
you-
anything.
You
Oh,
drink
we
on
don't
the
do
nose.
anything.
Thumbs
Don't
down,
do
you drink.
anything.
Thumbs
Yeah.
down, drink.
You guys made me drink too much. Okay, let's go.
You could drink whenever you'd like, but you just have to drink. You just have to
I
drink
want
on
to
thumbs
abide
down.
by the rules of the show.
Yes.
You guys
Okay.
never
All
do
right.
invite.
Yes. You'll see me taking sips just casually, but okay. The hills have eyes.
So I'm gonna give the original a thumbs down. I like the remake, believe it or not.
Okay. Thumbs down.
Okay, so I'm drinking.
Nightmare on Elm Street. I think I know this.
Thumbs up.
Yep. Deadly Friend.
I'm gonna give it a thumbs down, other than that one scene, which is amazing.
Oh, Rich, what are you doing?
Serpent and the Rainbow.
You don't like it when the robot grabs his crotch?
I wish he was grabbing my crotch. How about that? Serpent of the Rainbow.
Yeah.
Actually, I love that movie. That's a guilty pleasure. I really
Oh,
like
do
that
you?
movie a lot.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
All right. All right. Shocker, Rich.
Thumbs down. Hate that movie.
That's it. You're kicked off the show.
Yeah, Gino's
All right,
taking over. He's the host.
So I watched it yesterday, and I would say the first hour of it was good, and I really enjoyed it. But it just really gets out of hand, and
Yeah, it's out of
makes
control.
absolutely no
Yeah.
sense in the last half hour. It just like it's almost unwatchable. But that's for other news later on. All right, New Nightmare, Rich.
Thumbs down.
Okay.
I watched that for your challenge last year too. Hated it.
All right, Precursor, Scream.
I'll give it a thumbs up.
Okay. All right. I like that. My Soul to Take.
Never seen it.
All right. That means we have to drink, Gino. I'm sorry. I forgot to include that.
Oh shit, that's okay. I've been drinking. I'm just in my current condition. I'm just doing whatever.
You just have to talk. That's it. Scream 4, Rich.
Yeah, I liked it better than I thought. I'll give it a thumbs up.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, that's it,
Nice.
man. That's the Wes
Woo!
Craven Director's Challenge. Now we could really dive into Scream, which personally I really like this film, so I'm definitely ready to talk about it, Rich.
Yeah, so like here's the main thing I don't like about the movie now is I really hate the cast in the movie.
What?
And that's like same thing happens. I'll say it again.
Who exactly?
Hold on, let me finish. I'll say the same thing when we get to Urban Legend too. And what they did was right, they cast people that were like not overly popular at the time, but then you just got saturated. I do not like Nev Campbell. I do not like Courtney Cox. I do not like David Arquette. You name them in the movie, other than Rose McGowan, who I think is really good in this.
Oh yeah.
And I'm a huge fan, or at least was a huge fan of Rose McGowan back in the day. I cannot stand any of these people, and it's really hard for me to watch them now. At the time, I probably wasn't as annoyed by them because I didn't see them that much. But now I'm like, oh, Courtney Cox. The other thing I don't like about this movie, and I'm gonna get into what I liked about this movie. There's one thing I don't like about this movie, and it happens in basically all of the Scream movies, is there's so many instances where you think people are killed and they all come back. Like they don't kill off the main actors at all. And they do this in every one, and it's kind of disappointing to me. Like I hate when people keep coming back. And I did read though that in the original script, the David Arquette character dies, which would have been great. but he tested really well. So they had shot it 2 ways, and they ended up using the cut where he comes back. It would have been a better movie if he died. However, I know he's a fan favorite, and he's in basically most of the sequels up until recently. What I do like about this movie, though, is it does keep you guessing. I think the twist at the end was brilliant, something I hadn't seen before. And I think the movie, it's scary. It is fun. It's got some cool parts. It's got some parts that are like I watch now and I'm like, it's kind of cringy, but like I do like it overall, and I do like what they did. And again, they made a slasher movie fun, and I don't think I'd seen really a fun slasher movie that was good up until this movie.
Yeah, absolutely a hard balance. And Gino, I'm going to get to you in a second, but one
Yeah.
thing I do want to say is I did watch this film and I did like it, when it came out. But then by like the second or third one, like it really fell off. Like I didn't care about it anymore. And I stopped watching them. And I didn't even know that new ones came out. I didn't know they were still making films. But then one random day I caught the 2021 Scream, which I guess is 5, and I liked it so much that I was like, you know what? Maybe I gave up a little bit too early on these films, and I went back and I rewatched them all in chronological order. And I decided that not only do I like this whole film series, but I really enjoy this first one as much as I did when I saw it for the first time. And I personally like the cast. I think they're hateable characters, but isn't that what like a slasher film is? Isn't it? Don't you load it up with people that you can't stand, that you're like kind of rooting for them to catch it?
It's not the characters I don't like, it's the actors I don't like. The
It's
characters
the actual
are fine.
actors.
It's the actual actors. Like I do
Really?
not like looking at Courtney Cox. I do not looking at Dave Arquette. Like I just don't like looking at them. Like they just annoy me. And again, I think they just got oversaturated. And again, it's the same thing when you go into urban legend. Like I know you're gonna hate this. I don't like Jared Leto. And at the time he was like kind of new, so it wasn't a big deal. But now I watch it, I'm like, oh, Jared Leto. Like I like a lot of these people I just can't stand. But again, I think it's just
He's my
because
homeboy, so I have to apologize.
yeah, I think it's just because again they just blew up and did a bunch of stuff, but like, and at the time it didn't bother me, but now it does. It's just hard for me to watch them in movies. It's not the characters. The characters are actually fine. I think they're actually well-written characters.
I have to say, like, I'll disagree with you, Rich, because I think the actors, for the most part, are fantastic. David Arquette can be a bit much. Like, Never Been Kissed. I watched that movie a few times, and I didn't like him in that. But in Scream, I thought that we were dealing with movies like The Haunting at that time. So we're dealing with complete shit films, where this film came in and kind of saved the day. I remember going to see it. I saw it with my ex. My ex, it could be a whole show, and so, um, so I have like mixed memories about this film. But I think Scream changed the game and kind of brought back the slasher, because the slasher was kind of being thrown down. And when you see like what kind of like grew from this tree, the urban legend, the Final Destination, it showed that like unknowns could once again like be headliners. And maybe some of them were shitty, like Courtney Cox. I think was not good, but I thought David Arquette, did an okay job, and Nev Campbell did a good job, and the mystery and the slash element. There was something for everyone, and that Shaggy guy, I don't know his name,
Matthew
but I
Lillard.
played Shaggy.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's
Matthew
Stumacher.
Lillard.
Yeah.
Uh, he's the fucking man, because I can tell you right now, I could never do a Shaggy impression, and two, what he did in this film and in other films just shows his talent. He did what they wanted him to do. He became the obnoxious asshole, and I've known so many obnoxious assholes in my life that I could say this guy reminds me of this jerk off that I used to know. So for me it was relatable, a relatable film, minus the dad being dragged out hogtied and ball gag, whatever they did, and the murders. So Scream was the right film at the right time, and if you look what came after, it totally changed horror. Whether you like Scream or not, it was a transitional film. It was a monumental film, and how many films would not be here had it not been for Scream? And I brought The Haunting. The Haunting would have killed horror. If Scream and Blair Witch never happened, The Haunting happened, we would not be watching horror ever again. I can't imagine horror recovering from The Haunting.
I agree with everything he's saying, and this movie was groundbreaking at the time. And I think one thing I do love about this movie, speaking of the cast, and I do think they did a good job, I just personally don't like them, is that they killed off Drew Barrymore right away. And she is one
Oh
who I
yeah.
really can't stand. I cannot stand Drew
Woo,
Barrymore. But
what?
like, even if you like, but I think that was like something you didn't expect. And they marketed it like she's like the first name on the poster. Like they really wanted like that to be a surprise. And I think that was really effective. And the opening scene again is iconic. It's a great, the first 5-10 minutes of the film I think is brilliant and really good. And I respect what they did there. And look, I like that there's blood in the movie. There's gore. I like it gets violent at times. It's, you know, I'm not saying I hate the movie. I would just mention that there's things I don't like about it.
I mean, that opening scene is so crazy and iconic. It just opens up with, some young girl making popcorn. You're not thinking anything of it. And then that voice that like comes over the phone at that time. I mean, that was like so cool. And it's like they really didn't like reinvent the wheel here with a lot of things they did in this film. They have a lot of nods to like, the classic horror films, but I think what they did is they did them a little bit better. So yeah, Drew Barrymore dying in that first 10 minutes, that was shocking, but like, that's pulled right from like, Psycho and Janet Leigh, and we're looking at, one character that is, the protagonist, and then suddenly now we're following another one 15-20 minutes later, which is, essentially what happens in Psycho. So I think, they didn't really rewrite it, but they did it really good and really clever because no one was really expecting that, and no one expected it to be the brutality in that first 10 minutes with like innards basically being like that is shocking. That is shocking for like a teen film. That's shocking for a slasher film. And I think even now, I mean, I would say that goes down as a gory kind of kill. And I really like that. And obviously, the babysitter and all that stuff, they kind of play off that, like, the calls coming from inside the house. And that's what they play on a lot with this film. Again, they didn't invent it, but it's still scary. There's a lot of jump scares. There's a lot of gore. I think they did a lot of things right. They really nailed it for like, what was happening at that moment. But at the same time, it's like you go back and look and just kind of remind yourself, be like, oh, I remember. I remember when people looked like that. I remember when people dressed and acted like that. And I thought it was really cool. And rewatching it recently, I still got the same kind of nostalgic feel. So I think this is one of those films that is very timely, and it doesn't feel like too much of its own time. And I don't know, a lot of films kind of feel old when you rewatch them.
And you know what I like too? I like when they're at the party and they have the movie Halloween on, and it's almost like timed to the party. Like certain things happen in the movie. Like there's one point where he's like talking, Michael Myers is right behind you, and the killer's right behind him. Like it was really clever the way they kind of used Halloween in this movie. It was really clever. And I'll give you a couple facts about the movie that I found on IMDb because I did a little research. Number one is they used 50 gallons of blood, which sounds like a lot of blood. 50 gallons.
Wow.
Another thing is they had a really hard time getting an R rating because again, MPAA was a pain in the ass back then. You couldn't do violence. That was like when you could do sex but not violence, and now it's like the reverse. And they had to like keep going back and cutting things. And how they got it over the edge was they said it was a comedy, not a horror film. And then the MPAA took another look at it and said, "Oh, it's a comedy, so we'll let a lot of this shit slide," which I thought was like an interesting way to do it. Um, and the other thing about it is when the movie opened, it opened, I believe, around Christmas time as counter program. And the first opening weekend, it kind of bombed. Like it only did like $6 million at the box office. And they thought it was a flop. But then the word of mouth was just so good that it ended up being like $100 million movie just based on people being like, this movie's amazing. You got to go see it. So like, you know, and again, happy it did because I don't know if I saw it opening weekend, but whenever I did see it, I totally enjoyed it.
I'm positive we saw it together, and I probably brought a girl that looked exactly like that girl that was in the bathroom scene. So
Yeah,
just
if you can hear me, my
yeah.
ex looked like that.
Oh, there,
Can you hear
see
me?
there. Yep, we got you. We
All
got
right,
you.
good.
You're
Yeah,
in.
no, it's you brought up the point that there is something to be said for nostalgia because like I went to go see the film on opening weekend, and I definitely think like Scream was the film that made the path for, like I said, Final Destination, Urban Legends, this great drinking game we're doing tonight. I'm kind of losing my thought because Jerry, man, Jerry, I love you, man. I just met you, but I love you. And
I love you too, bro.
All right, so
and
I'm gonna get us
I
back on.
appreciate the
I'm gonna get us
Jameson.
back on track here because we do have more drinking to do, and like the next part of drinking,
We do.
we do have more drinking. So let's rate this movie because we still have one more movie to talk about. So there's many sips to be
Damn.
taken. So let's rate Scream. I rated it first the first time. I'll do it again. I'm gonna give it a 3.5. 3.5.
All right.
And that's based on my
good.
view,
Yeah,
my recent view, like 3.5.
you know,
At the
I'll
time, I
drink to
probably was a
that.
5, but 3.5 now. So 3.5
No,
seconds, boys.
I thought you were gonna go lower. Thank
No,
you.
3.5. It holds up. It does hold up. There's things I don't like about it, and I was critical about it, but there's a lot of stuff I do like about it that I know we didn't have time to really get into. But yeah, it was a very clever, brilliant movie, and it does hold up. So, all right, so you guys drank your 3.5. Jerry, why don't you go next? I'm ready to sip a little.
I love this film, and honestly, I think they did a lot of things in this film really before they became tropes and cliche of horror films, and I enjoy that and I appreciate it. Watching it now might be a little kind of like, corny because you've seen it 1,000 times, but when you viewed this in the early 90s, it was like new and innovative. So I'm gonna judge it based on my feeling back then and
Well, no, you
a
gotta
little
do
bit
it
of
now.
now.
You gotta
No,
rate it
a
now.
little bit now. I'm gonna add a little bit of it
All
now.
right, all right.
Just because like there's a deep tide feeling to this, and I'm gonna give it 4.5. 4.5 bloody knives.
There you go.
All right, Gino, your turn.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna give it a 4.5. I'm on the same page with Jerry here. That I have to take away from the cameo by Wes Craven because I don't like cameos. I fucking hate them. So 4.5 on this motherfucker, guys.
All
Let's
right.
go.
Oh, you don't have to drink, Gino, but go for it.
You could drink with us, man. Like everything.
It's the peer pressure, you guys. I can't help myself. Let's
Man,
party.
that's
So
it.
it's funny when I was like telling Gino, like I invited him on this podcast. I was like, we are going to do a bit of drinking. I don't know if he realized the
bit.
amount of drinking we do. Maybe I should have said a lot. I think I said a bit, which is my bad. But anyway, so this is how we roll, man. This is what we do every 2 weeks. So hope you're having fun. We have one more movie to talk
I'm
about.
having a good time.
Yeah, and it's we're gonna talk about the 1998 movie Urban Legend, which pretty much is a real ripoff of Scream. It's basically like, okay, how do we replicate what they did and do it like a little different? In this one, I do like the idea that the killer is basing on not just horror movies, he's basing it on urban legend. So every kill kind of is similar to some kind of urban legend, and I kind of like that. It's a set of high school kids, college students. So okay, they're a little older and can actually drink legally. But again, this movie does feel like a real ripoff of Scream. And I think one of the things I really don't like about it is I did read that the original script was a lot bloodier and gorier, and they made the choice to pull back on all of that. So there's a lot of things that are really underwhelming, like Tara Reid has like she gets killed in it, and it's like a long scene where she's getting chased, and it's really like intense, and then it's like her kill is like anticlimactic because it's like off camera, and there's just a lot of stuff like that. There's like a twist at the end, which is like again is very like screamish, and I don't think I saw it coming, but I was still kind of like, yeah, okay. But yeah, it's basically a slasher by numbers movie, right? It's basic. I believe it's nothing crazy. But if you want to watch like a movie similar to Scream, it's very similar. It's not as good as Scream. It's not as well written as Scream. It's not as clever as Scream. But it's in that same vein as, and maybe it's better than like I Know What You Did Last Summer, which I didn't like. So it's like maybe it's a little better than some of those movies, but it's basically like what those 90s movies were like. And again, this has a cast that I probably didn't hate at the time, but now I'm like, okay, there's the guy from Dawson's Creek, and there's fucking Jared Leto, and I forget who else. I tell you what though,
Jared Leto, man.
I tell you what though, I don't remember why, but for whatever reason, back in the 90s, I did have somewhat of a crush on, I think her name is Rebecca Gayheart, who plays basically the psycho.
The
And I
Noxema
don't,
girl.
yeah, is that like, I don't know what I knew her from, but I'm like, as soon as I watched this, I was like, I had a crush on her for some reason, and I can't place what I've seen her in, but
I
maybe
still
that was it.
do.
She's beautiful. Yeah, yeah. So anyway,
Gorgeous. What a beauty.
and Danielle Harris is in this movie, who we talked about last week when we talked
Hell
about Halloween.
yes.
Apparently, she auditioned for the lead, did not get it, which it would have been a better movie if she had, because she's in the movie not that much. But she plays this hot, slutty goth chick, which I would have liked to have seen more of
Goth
that.
Girl Tosh.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great. And the funny thing is Alicia Witt, the girl who played Natalie, who is the star of this film. We just seen her recently, and I don't know if you realize that she is the mother in Longlegs.
Get the fuck out of here! Really?
That's who the mother is in Longlegs. Yeah, I was actually shocked because I was going through everyone's IMDb to see like what they've done since, and I was kind of shocked to see that. Yeah, that's her. She played a great role. She's not that old, but she just played someone older.
Gino, how did you feel about Long Legs? Did you watch it yet?
Yeah, I have not seen it yet. I am a fan of Nick Cage though, and it's hard to go wrong with Nick Cage, even in his shittier films like The Wicker Man that people shit on. I love The Wicker Man. If Nick Cage is in it, I'll watch it. I just haven't got around to Long Legs yet.
I think it's a good film, and I think you'll like it. Yeah, he's always good. But I think I personally liked Alicia Witt in this particular film. I think she kind of played like that innocent kind of like girl, that pensive girl, just trying to figure out what's going on. And I mean, this is almost like the same exact film as Scream. It's
They even
basically
do the
college
phone call.
co-eds
They do the phone call thing where like the killer like calls with a weird voice, and like it's like, they
trying to figure out, and that's exactly who the Natalie character is. She is basically the Neve Campbell trying to figure out who the killer is before she ends up being the next victim. So there are a lot of things I did like about this film. I thought the pacing was good, and I thought there was lots of interesting things, and I liked the clever tie-in to the urban legends, but some of them were just like some of it was just so far-fetched that like I couldn't believe it. And I'll start right in the beginning, where that girl Michelle is driving in that SUV and she stops for gas, and then the guy with the stutter is trying to tell her that there's someone in the back seat with an axe. How the hell are you going to kill someone with an axe sitting in the back seat of a car? It wasn't thought out enough. It made no sense. And you can't kill someone with an axe when you're in the back seat and she's doing like 50 miles per hour. Everyone's gonna like it's impossible. It's impossible to swing an axe, and that person would have died too. So I found that like a little lazy in the way they shaped it. I feel like with so many urban legends, they could have used maybe the urban legend where someone hides underneath your car and they pull her underneath, or
Or how about not
something a
having an
little bit.
axe? How about like having like anything
So,
but an axe, you know?
anything would have been better than what they did. I thought that was like super lazy. I didn't really like that. Other than that, I think a lot of the kills, now that you said that, Rich, I mean, I feel like a lot was kind of cut out of it. But I think when the college dean gets killed, I don't know if you guys
Oh, it was the
remember that,
spikes,
but
right?
like yeah, it was with the tire
That was
spikes, and I
awesome.
thought
That
that
was
was like a
cool.
so so they did that pacing right, where it's just like slow and like uncontrollable, and then you see this guy and he falls over, and there's nothing he could do to kind of stop like what's about to happen, and then he just gets crunched by the these tire spikes. And I thought that was gruesome, man, just with this, because the car's doing like three, but
Hmm.
there's nothing you could do. It's a car, there's nothing you could do about it. And I thought that was like really brutal. So there are definitely things that I did like about this film. I did like Jared Leto. He's my dude. I know he follows us, so
Oh, and
giving
speaking
him
of
a
Jared
thumbs up
Leto,
right
apparently
there.
he hates this movie and will not speak about it in interviews. He has never spoken about it except for one time because he does not like this movie
I'll
and is not
speak to him
proud of it.
about that.
You're gonna tell him it's
Next time
good?
I see him, I'll mention it. I'm gonna no, I'm not gonna say this film is good. This film is it's problematic. I think it's clever but lazy. Does that make sense, guys?
No.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think it's a mixed bag for no question. That I think it's enjoyable, just as like Valentine is enjoyable, where it is a branch off the Scream tree. But if you enjoy Scream, you should push this. This, like we talked about the 80s earlier. Where would the Prowler be and the Burning be and Madman be if it wasn't for Friday the 13th? So we have to just say, hey, this, we like this, and there's gonna be knockoffs, and we can find some joy in the knockoffs. And I will say, I love Urban Legend because of Urban Legend 2, where the guy at the end says teaching fucking sucks. And I said, you know what? I'm a writer, and I want to tell that writer good job, because teaching fucking sucks is a nothing line, but I found it so enjoyable that I can't shit on the series at all, because my job fucking sucks. And if I ever got into that position where I'm like, hey, I'm gonna put on a mask and get like a cleaver or something, I don't know what I would use, uh, a mallet maybe, and if I was gonna go on a killing spree with a mask, I would say my job fucking sucks as the reason. So Urban Legends gets a pass for me, and so does Urban Legends 2, because it struck home.
Definitely not a bad film. It's a watch, but is it something that I'll keep rewatching? I'm gonna say probably not. It's interesting that you mentioned Valentine's, same director. He did a few films. I would say neither of these are his best films. He did a film called Storm Warning, which I really like, and I recommend that to anyone who wants to kind of jump into Jamie Blanks, who's the director. I thought that was an awesome, awesome film, and the direction of that film and the atmosphere of that film is killer. And I think the atmosphere of this film is okay because Rich, I'm a sucker for like
The Dark
stormy
and Stormy
nights
Night. Yeah.
and a
When I
lot of
watched it, I thought
rain.
of that. Yeah. I
And
was like, oh, it's
yeah,
totally you.
it looks cool, but you know what? That wears off like super, super fast. And I mean, we could kind of fast forward and let's get into like this twist here. I don't think we're spoiling anything if no one has seen this movie yet. You probably should have saw it. It's like 20 years old, but so Brenda is the killer. But for me, the way they set up like this final act, it was just so ridiculous. It was incomprehensible. I'm sorry. So many things needed to line up for her to pull off this last act that it's like it's not even possible. Like we would have to assume that, and let's get into the scene that Natalie and Brenda, they find the body. They decide to split up. Jared Leto's character, who's Paul, is not with them and doesn't follow them. They somehow find the house. They end in the house. Brenda gets there first. She ends up in the room. It's just all too convenient. And I think it's a little contrived, the ending. And if you watch this film for like an hour and a half, I think you'd be a little surprised by the twist, but a little disappointed how they executed on it, I guess.
I agree with you.
Let's wrap this one up, because why not? I have to edit this podcast, and it's like
Sorry, Rich. It's not my fault. It's Jerry's fault. He fucked me up. So if you guys walk away regretful that you had me, it's on you.
Nah, you're awesome.
This is A plus. This is A plus, and this is exactly why we have guests on the show. We want you to have fun with us and experience, what we're experiencing. So this is cool, man. And I'm glad that you got hit with the wrong end of the drinking games. It's usually
for once,
me,
it's
man.
not us.
It's usually me and Gino. If you go back and you listen to maybe like an episode or two, I'm not even making any sense at the end. It's like words aren't even coming out of my mouth, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, Gino, just so you know, like we do this podcast, we record until I can't open my eyes anymore, and then I start to wrap it up because I'm just like, I'm too fucked up right now, and I need to kind of stop before I say something offensive. It's not you, it's me.
Well, you're the man. I'm glad we worked in the desert together. I'm glad we weren't killed by the horses.
Yes.
And I appreciate this invite, and I hope I didn't make your life more difficult because
Nah, you're a lot of fun,
Jameson
man.
hits me like a brick.
No, this is awesome.
Same.
So let's give these a let's give these a rating, and then we'll wrap this up. So I guess we'll just go in the same order since it's been working out
Okay.
so well.
It has been
So I
working
don't think
out
Rich
well.
Rich hasn't said 2 words, so he didn't like this film. So I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's gonna be low.
I give it a 1. I
A
hated this
1.
movie. I
Oh.
hated it. Hated it. I'll never watch it again. Yeah, sorry guys, 1 sip. Deal with it.
Yeah,
Shame on you.
That's all right. All right, so listen, I'm on the fence with this one. I don't think the kills were great. I did like some cleverness of it. I like Jared Leto. I always got to give it a bump for that. But they killed the dog in this one.
Oh, I know.
and-
I want
and
you know what? I want to talk about that.
honestly,
Not
you know-
only did they kill a dog, but there's a scene where the guy like makes the dog drink a beer, and I hate that. Whenever I see stuff like that,
Like
it
I don't
pisses me
like
off.
animal abuse.
No,
I
no,
don't
I
like
agree.
that. I don't condone that. You know, I'll never condone that. I don't care. Yeah,
You don't make an animal do what they don't want to do.
Yeah,
No,
so it's not
I
cool.
get pissed off with that all the time. Yeah.
I didn't like that. And actually I rewatched this with my wife, so I actually had to fast forward past that dog scene because I know she wouldn't like it. You know, she's a big animal advocate, so I had to like really kind of just skip over that. But I remembered it was there. I don't like it. So I have to keep all this in mind. Am I gonna watch this film again? Probably not. I'm giving it a 2.
Oof. All right. I'll drink 2.
All right.
You're up, Gino.
Okay. I would have given it a 2, like my dear friend Jerry did. But, and Jerry, you're a badass. I appreciate everything tonight, but I'm going to say I'm gonna give it a 3 because of Urban Legends 2 and that line "teaching fucking sucks."
So you're giving part
Because
1 a 3?
Well,
I can't
I'm
do
gonna
that.
give it a 3 because it gave
different movie.
birth to teaching fucking sucks.
So
Yeah, I'm
if it
not a
wasn't for
teacher,
part
but
3,
I'm-
there
I
wouldn't be
have a
part
job
2.
that
Okay,
fucking sucks.
I get it. Okay, so you're grateful for part 1, even though it sucked because it gave you a lot
Yeah.
in part 2. All right,
Spawned.
3
Part
seconds.
2.
Sips.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Nah,
Right,
Gino.
great.
Gino,
And what I'm taking from this
yeah.
is that I'm probably gonna watch part 2 and I'll see how I feel about that.
No, so
It's not good till the ending.
oh, so I'll just skip to the end. I'll just watch the end. Yeah, so anyway, so Gino, thank you so much for coming out, like hanging out with us tonight. Like I appreciate you you rolled with it, man. You drank with us, you hung in there. Like not a lot of people can survive an episode, and you did survive. So we really appreciate that. So
I'm not a bitch.
yeah, you are not a bitch.
I bring it. I bring it.
Yeah, and you're drinking the Jameson neat, which I respect. So Scary Tales Dark Walker is up on Tubi right now. You should all watch it. I hope you are really successful with that. Look out for Scary Tales, the series, which is going to come out sometime next year, and anything else. Look, just fucking look up Geno McGahee. Watch his whole catalog. Fatal Justice is the one he recommends you start with after you watch Dark Walker. And you could find him on Instagram, Facebook, Scared Stiff Reviews. He does horror reviews and interviews and all kinds of cool stuff. They actually interviewed me many, many years ago, and I gave some really brilliant insights into how to make a movie during the pandemic. So you should all look that up.
You did.
I believe you interviewed me when I did Sinful, which was my pandemic movie. So I really appreciate that. But no, Gino, seriously, thanks a lot for coming on.
You always knock them out of the park, Rich, and I'm a big fan. And I want to say to all my fans that are tuning in, see you fucking me up with this whiskey stuff, that Rich is the man. Made Droid is fucking badass, and I hope everyone checks it out. But also, Made Droid 2, there's a reason why there's a sequel. It's because Rich understands film. Like when I look at filmmakers, and I say, who do I consider the man? I say Rich is in the running because Rich is the fucking man. When I watch his stuff, it's very, very pretty. It's very well thought out. This is a guy that fucking sits down and says, what am I going to do? He's, I won't trash anybody, but he's not like a lot of jokers I know. Love his work. Made Droid 2 Origins. Watch that shit because this guy fucking knows what he's doing.
And that's why we had Gino on today. That's 2 hours later. That's the reason we had him on to plug my shit.
That's great, man.
No,
I want to thank Geno for something though. I want to thank him for introducing me to some Jameson on the rocks because honestly, I never would have drank it
Let's
before.
cheers to that. Let's drink to that.
But
Drink
now
to
I'm going to
Geno
drink it
and
again.
Jameson. Cheers.
So here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, Jerry. I'm so happy to meet you.
So Jerry, what do we have going
Thank
on
you.
the next
I
episode?
appreciate
Do we know
that.
what the next episode is?
So we do. So we got some exciting stuff. Yeah, we're gonna do some psychological horror, and we're gonna have a very exciting guest that's probably also gonna give Rich some accolades, like he needs some more. Is Katie K is gonna be on the show?
Yes, so
it's gonna be
excited.
a really, really cool show. Really cool.
Yeah,
show.
yeah. No, Katie K is awesome. I can't wait to have her on and have her praise me some more. I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so
and list her accolades.
Yeah. So you could follow us on Instagram at Horrorheads Podcast or email us your love and hate at horrorheadspodcast@gmail.com. Check out check out Jerry's Horrorheads Challenge that you can find on our Instagram. Download our Horrorheads playlist on Spotify if you want to like fucking kick some ass and listen to some real heavy shit. And that's really it. So next time we talk, Majoroid Origins will probably be out in the world, so I'm super stoked. All right, good night, everybody. See you later.
Cheers.
Love you guys. Good job. Thank you.
Thanks, Geno.